Good morning, good afternoon, and/or good evening, depending on the part of the world you are calling in from. Welcome to the Cove Data Protection, What's New in Cloud First Data Protection webinar, I guess. Not really a boot camp today. I see we've got quite a few folks that are already dialed in, so I really do appreciate you guys getting here before the session starts. That's great. I see a few folks are still getting connected into the platform, so we'll give them a chance to get connected while we do a little bit of the housekeeping and kick off this informative hour about what's new in, or what's coming in Cove Data Protection. Okay. Let's see, if I could just have somebody in the audience quickly do some validation for me. Let me know that you can hear the audio and that you can see this Cove Data Protection, What's New in Cloud First Data Protection slide on the screen. Just a quick comment in the question section would be perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you, folks. I do appreciate that so much. Great, great, great. Looks, sounds good, can hear it, everything's loud and clear, perfect. If we have any issues during the session today, please let me know in the question section and go to webinar, and I'll do my best to get it corrected. Obviously, at any point, if you've got problems, feel free to disconnect and reconnect. Wireless can be very finicky some days. If you've got a landline or a direct wired connection, those can always be useful as well if you're having problems. Yeah, once again, let me know if you have any issues during the session, and I'll see what I can do on my end if I can help. Okay. So with that, welcome everybody. This is our Cove Data Protection, What's New in Cloud First Data Protection webinar. We've got about an hour today worth of content. My name is Eric Harless. I'm your head backup nerd here at Enable. And I'm gonna take you through a little bit of retrospective and perspective when it comes to Cove Data Protection, where we've been and where we're going from a backup and recovery roadmap and feature perspective, okay? During the session today, drop any questions, comments, or inquiries you might have into the question section of GoToWebinar, and I'll do my best to answer those either in real time or during an appropriate time during the session. I do have a lot of slides available today just talking about history, but I do have a live product environment as well. So I am more than willing to deviate slightly from my agenda if there are questions and inquiries, things you guys might want to see in a little bit more detail, or if you've got questions around a particular feature and or function. I think we've got a fairly decent sized crowd today, but not so large that I can't deviate a little bit to show off the right items to the folks, okay? We will talk about features and functions today that have been released, as well as features and functions that are currently being researched and or developed. So for that reason, please don't make any licensing or purchasing decisions based on features that are not yet generally available. You'll see me talking about feature previews and things of that nature during the session today. Those are ones that you can opt into but have not yet reached GA state. The material functionality of that, the feature set, the timeframes, the deliverables, all of those could change before we get to a GA state, or even could be deferred if there are changes that are significant in the market. So once again, please don't base your purchasing or licensing decisions based on what you've seen that is not yet generally available, okay? As I mentioned, we are recording the session today. For that reason, I have all of the attendees on mute, so drop those questions, comments, and inquiries into the questions section of GoToWebinar, and I'll do my best to address those. I did introduce myself, but for those of you that I have not met before, although I do see some familiar names, that's great. My name is Eric Harless. I've been with Enable now for just over 12 years, that entire time working on their line of backup and recovery products, obviously under a couple different brands and names throughout the years. I've been in the space now 25 plus years, focusing on backup, data recovery, business continuity, replication, high availability, those kind of technologies. Mixture of sales, support, system engineering roles, but predominantly I've been a product management professional working toward building out a product roadmap and ensuring that we learn from the successes and the failures of the market, our competitors out there. My last 6 years here at Enable in this head nerd role, which is kind of a mixture of product management and outbound product evangelist type of role. Ultimately, I want to build out a group of like-minded backup nerds, backup gurus that are going to help support and grow the channel, expand the presence of Cove. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm going to give a QR code a little bit later in the session today where you can schedule a one-on-one personal health check or talk about any other type of nerd-related items. But if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can do that. My Twitter handle or X handle at backup_nerd. Drop me a quick email, eric.harless@n-able.com, okay? So for our agenda today, this is, like I said, going to keep it very short and sweet. We're going to do those introductions that we just did. We're going to look at roadmaps from a retrospective perspective. We're going to talk about some of the futures and the directions that we're going. During that time, I'll take breaks to answer any Q&A and queries that come through into the question section. Please start getting those questions queued up. Hey, are we ever going to do this? Have you thought about that? Hey, what about G Suite? Or what about AWS backup and recovery, Enter ID, those kind of things. Feel free to drop that in. I'll be more than happy to talk to those. Okay. So with that, let's see. We're going to start. You are here. So obviously, knowing where you've been definitely frames where you're going inside of in the future. So we're going to start right here, looking a little bit back into the past to see how we've got to this point. And the reason we do that, and not just to do a roadmap recap because we can, but a lot of times when I talk to partners and we're looking to solve problems or go into that discovery phase of, well, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? A lot of times partners are not actually aware of all of the latest and greatest enhancements and features that we've introduced, fixes, reliability improvements, UX improvements. So I want to cover some of the way that we got to the current point we're at and how that's shaping our future from a product development perspective. So obviously we're going to start here, taking that retrospective look, but ultimately we want to make sure that we get here so we can see that bright blue sky horizon and make sure that we are going ultimately in the right direction. So when we talk to partners, when we look at the industry, one of the things that we're learning out there is that 94% of ransomware victims in the past year saw an attempt to compromise their backups during the attack. So the bad actors are going after your backups to ensure that you can't just flip a switch, push a button, and revert or roll back to a prior point in time before they had access or dwell into your system. The other note here is a much higher, in fact, an 8x higher recovery cost when those backups are compromised. So you want to do everything possibly available to you to ensure that those backups are secure and protected. That might mean that you're not just relying on on-site backups. You're relying on multiple backup tools, maybe a 3-2-1 backup model or some other variation of that structure. You want immutability. You want high levels of encryption. You want honeypots and or anomaly detection. You want alerting. You want granular security, role level security, so that you've got the ability to do like a least privileged style of access. You want mandatory multi-factor authentication. So you want a lot of things in place to ensure that if the bad actor gets in, or more importantly, I guess, when the bad actor gets in, that you can recover from those backups as a last line of defense. Now, hopefully you've got a really good MDR, EDR, XDR, AV, patch, and other set of tools in place there to help mitigate or prevent those breaches that are coming across your shore every single day, just lapping against the coast there. But eventually somebody is going to find their way in. Now, the difference between securing and protecting all of your systems and maybe a couple machines getting compromised, there's a fairly good likelihood that with the way things work today, a few machines are going to be damaged, compromised, and then the lateral movement is what's going to get discovered and blocked by your various security systems. So maybe you don't have to rely on that backup in order to recover your entire infrastructure, but still a few systems inside of your organization. So with that in mind, let's look about how we've evolved our strategies over the last couple of years. I'll do a couple high-level slides for you guys so that you can kind of see the thought here. Plus, Enable has shifted our mindset a little bit with the acquisition of Adlumin. This was completed earlier this year. Adlumin on the security side, or left of Boom, provides that endpoint detection and response, the identity response, the visibility to darknet exposure, the AI triggered remediation, all left of Boom, or all prior to that system being damaged and or compromised. And as great as systems are like this are, and regardless of who you're using, if it is a new threat, if it is a individual user working on that environment, maybe not using his full bag of tricks and exploits, just nosing around the system, compromising and making changes, doing things that may not be detected, they might get around some of these automated solutions, some of these intelligent solutions that don't see or can't act at scale just yet, and be able to compromise an environment. So having a solution both left of boom and right of boom makes a lot of sense. On the Cove side of the house, we've pivoted a little bit here as well to ensure that we've got isolated backup copies, immutability, what we call fortified copies. We've introduced things like anomaly detection and honeypots in place so that if a bad actor were to get onto the network, if they were to start to mess with data packets or try to manipulate API calls and intercept your traffic, we can see those anomalies and we can lock those environments out and revert back to those good copies of the data sitting out in our air-gapped immutable storage. So lots of ways to think about this one, but don't rely on just one piece of protection here. Don't just rely on left of boom. Don't just rely on right of boom. You want to marry both of these together, hopefully with some really, really good integration so that alerts and notifications are working back and forth between those products. We like to think that Cove works a little bit differently, especially when it comes to remediating recovery. So the fact that we are never sending the same data across the wire twice is the key to our true delta backup. It means that we can track the changes and send those very, very small subset of changed bytes for those various files across the wire and get a very, very quick backup speed, very, very high level of dedupe, compression, and efficiency. We can utilize that same true delta backup technology during the recovery phase. This means that if we are maintaining ready to go bootable virtual machines in a Hyper-V, VMware, or Azure infrastructure, that we can just apply or roll back those delta changes to move it forward and move it backwards to a prior point in time, giving the ability to perform either on-demand or proactive image level recovery, sitting ready, standing in a private or third party or cloud data center. All that's protected behind the scenes with those immutable snapshots, what we call fortified copies, so that if the bad actors do get into the infrastructure, they can intercept network traffic, they still can't damage the underlying backups. Not going to read through. This is just a pre-read for you guys. I'm going to leave this on the screen for just a quick moment here. If anybody wants to take a quick screenshot of this, this was our release roadmap, starting in the upper right corner, 23.1, with each of our monthly releases up through 23.12. A lot of features, a lot of enhancements, a lot of functionality capabilities to restoring to different hypervisor environments, expanded out VMware functionality, our continuity offerings, standby recovery capabilities, first going into Hyper-V and then Azure and then VMware environments, expanding our recovery testing functionality so we can boot these up out in the AWS cloud and give you that proof of life as an independent external boot recovery, not only showing you proof of recoverability, but also giving you an idea of how fast you could recover that system in the event of failure, all unattended and automated behind the scenes. So we've taken this type of cadence, this type of approach, and we've extended that. So, we did a very, very similar approach through 2024 from a product roadmap perspective. Once again, 12 monthly releases with Cove, a very agile delivery model, but further expanding on those pillars, there we go, of things like recoverability, cyber resiliency, technician efficiency, how to send the least amount of data, how to recover the data the fastest, how to give you multiple recovery options and ensure that when you go to look for that copy of the data to get it back, you know it's going to be there ready and waiting. So you're also going to notice lots of efficiency updates around user experience, GUI interfaces, performance, and scale as we go through the session today. So once again, if you want to take a screenshot of this one, by all means, feel free to do that. All of our items that we've talked about here go into a lot more detail inside of our release notes page. I will reference or point that to you guys out to you guys here shortly as well, and show you how you can get set up on monthly notifications as well as release videos when the product updates come out, so that you don't have to necessarily go through one of these retrospectives, every 6 to 12 months. So 25.1, I do want to look a little bit more granular, a little bit more detail into what we did in 2025. It's been a good year from a development perspective. We've made a lot of advancements in security, in scalability, in performance. You're also going to notice a trend of making those features available to our partners a lot earlier than we have in the past. We evolved from a very waterfall development methodology to a more agile monthly release cycle, and we started breaking those feature sets down into manageable chunks. Alpha and beta stage you might think about, but we refer to them more as technical previews, internal previews, limited previews, and then we'll open those up to global availability, giving you the ability in product to opt into some of those or to toggle those new UI enhancements on or off, as well as to directly present feedback and or sign up either in product or on our release notes pages. So I'll go into more detail on that as we get into some of these various features and functions. But we started out 2025 really, really strong with our new notification engine. We put that notification engine into global preview, and we're going to talk about that one all through the 2025 cycle here, because it's going through continuous enhancement. The notification engine is meant to send you alerts based on failed server and workstation backups. You'll see throughout the year that we introduced or expanded that out to expand the email template structure to increase not just failures, but also completed with errors, to expand it from servers and workstations to M365. This engine that we're utilizing here for notifications will later become the engine used for our critical configuration changes engine, meaning not just a backup failure or a completed with errors, but a new user is added, a user is deleted, retention policy is modified, multiple devices or customers are removed from the console, security keys are generated, things of that nature. So you can choose exactly, or will be able to choose exactly which configurations you want to be alerted or notified on. Today, this notification engine is being pushed out via email, which means it can go to your PSA if it's got an email parser. We're going to show off, the customer name, the type of change, the machine name, or the policy or the retention settings that were modified in the email subject, and then of course we'll have details in that body. But this is also the premise for our upcoming PSA integrations. We're actively working right now internally around partner mapping or customer mapping for direct PSA integration, starting first with Halo PSA, probably extending into ConnectWise Manage, and then finally into the Kaseya line of PSAs. Inside of that approach, what would have typically went out via email, look at that now to be able to map up customer for customer with Cove, and then trigger those tickets based on either those failures, those completed with errors, or those configuration changes. I'll show some of this off inside of the product, and I'll show you how you can get into some of those internal previews when they are available for these different features and functions as needed, okay? Something else you're going to see as we're talking through the session today, we're going to talk about Apex quite a bit. Apex device properties here. We rolled this out in January of this year, and we updated the device properties panel. This is when you click on a device inside of the Cove UI, you get a lot of neat information at a glance. It was a very, very nice refresh, put a lot of the data available at your fingertips there so you can dig in and find the information. Apex is the framework that we use for GUI updates, but the GUI is relatively large now. We've got a lot of clients out there. We left a lot of feedback when we introduce UIs, so we introduced this in a staged approach. You could opt in or opt out of this Apex UI for several months before it finally went GA and we turned off that legacy functionality, providing you the visibility and the ability, the functionality in order to let us know what you liked and did not like about that. M365 at the same time got a really, really nice dashboard update, color bars for each of the individual data sources, pills to show you whether you've got auto include turned on for the various data sources. We've added in new columns and components for Microsoft 365 as we expanded out and introduced our Teams functionality, and we started to look at how to offboard users if they are unlicensed, deleted, or maybe a shared billable mailbox that you no longer need to keep inside of the environment by adding columns that allow you to track those users. Also, focusing on the recovery aspect of things, the continuity side, there were enhancements early this year on being able to restore to granular environments. So only restoring the OS disk to be able to make various configuration changes, adjust whether we're doing thin provisioning, thick provisioning, VHD, VHDX, pre-staging IP addresses and network configurations all within those restore processes. So you're going to see that theme as we talk through this environment today. Taking that and extending it out just a little bit further, and I alluded to some of these, we took that notification system from preview, we expanded it out now for not just complete with errors, but the failed aspect of it. Optimization is also critical here. As we're tracking all of your various backups and restores that are happening into a standby image environment or recovery testing environment, or even the restores you're performing into your own environments for ransomware and recovery, if there are failures, we know about those failures. Those roll up into a global notification engine that we have so that we can see, is this a type of failure or a type of backup problem that is plaguing multiple customers within a region globally? Is it tied to a particular operating system environment or application, so that we can try to work on correcting that low-hanging fruit for you. So when we see slow restores, when we see VMs being created that are thick provision that are consuming a lot of extra space, when we see errors and permissions problems during recoveries, we can work to address those even though you didn't open a ticket or support or report a problem, and we can optimize those behind the scenes so that when your future restores actually do need to take place, they will be optimized from scratch. So standby image, disk optimization, we found that when we were building VMs out inside of Azure, that if we chose a default size or default virtual machine configuration, and it had a 180 gig disk, well, we built the 180 gig disk and we threw on the 50 gigs of data, and you had a lot of unused space. So by coming in and doing the equivalent of thin provisioning and only expanding out the disk configuration based on what we need at the time of restore, we save you a lot of money ongoing month over month for that recovery environment of those standby image machines. That same efficiency was introduced in our M365 bulk user offboarding. And we did some enhancements to this in the prior year, in late 2024, allowing you to pick individual users instead of individual domains and expire the backups for particular users that were under protection. Let's say you had a user that was no longer licensed, and after 3 or 6 months, you want to delete that user because you no longer need that particular mailbox data or that OneDrive data to stay protected. We gave you that granular capabilities to do, and one of the added benefits there was that if you're no longer retaining that backup data, it's no longer a billable user from a Cove perspective, and you can save yourself on that monthly expenditure. Kind of aligning it with license reclamation inside of M365. With the February release, we rolled out, at least from an early preview perspective, the ability to go through in a single action and off-board or clean up multiple users inside of a single M365 domain. We are still actively working or plan to work on this feature. There are future roadmap items around it where we do want to introduce retention policies tied to M365 so that you can say, for these domains, when users have been unlicensed, deleted, or converted to shared, purge their OneDrive history or other data that we no longer need after 3 months, 6 months, a year, some predefined configured period, or retain all that data, indefinitely until I manually come in and remove it. For those of you that want to do something like this today, I can also offer you a scripted-based solution. It's going to take advantage of our Cove APIs, a quick PowerShell wrapper that can allow you to set or clean up across multiple domains in one fell swoop, but at the same time setting exclusions for particular domains or exclusions for particular users so they don't get auto-purged or auto-removed from the system. Lots of warnings, lots of alerts, lots of pop-ups in here so that we can explain this workflow. This was a very, very common enhancement request in mid to late 2024, and we saw some good enhancements earlier this year on it. Just checking my question section. I got a couple questions that are coming through. Nothing relevant right now yet to this piece, but I'll get back to those guys. Just keep dropping those in, and if for some reason you think I missed an item or I don't give enough detail on something, please just chime back in again with a follow through, okay? Let's see. Around the same time, we did look at indication of immutable copies. So that visibility, when you give a report to your clients on what's being protected, how it's being protected, is it encrypted, things of that nature, they want that proof or that validation of, yes, these features are there. And while our immutability has actually always been here, we didn't necessarily always tell you that it was there or make it in your face. So we did introduce components inside of the product to specifically tell you for a device, yes, that immutability is there, it is on, it is always on, and it cannot be manually turned off. And this is key, at least for any of the enable hosted backup and recovery environments. That immutability function is an underlying component to our backend storage infrastructure. It is air-gapped. It is not accessible via our APIs, but it is not something that is on or available for our software-only customers, which are utilizing their own storage hosting for storage nodes. So one thing to note that is different there. But we show you that visibility in product now. When you click on that and those enhanced user dashboards, you can see that immutability features are enabled for this. And we've carried that along with other key enhancement features like this, key visibility features like this into our executive summary reports that I'm going to talk about here in a slide or two. .25.3 did introduce some additional features here, but things like improving our recovery testing, increasing our recovery speeds, the ability to have a dedicated recovery database, a dedicated storage database for our M365 environment, optimized for the Microsoft Cloud, made a lot of sense. We were no longer shoehorning the M365, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams backups into the same storage structure as our server and workstation space. So we saw some significant improvements here for this. This was a multi-release rollout. I think March is when we announced it here. We went GA. We started migrating stuff in March, and we went GA in April, just a month later. So a lot of these 2-month or 3-month release cycles, we'll give you a preview version and then a GA version with some migration processes in between. All about faster restores, more efficient restores. Clients were starting to ask, well, hey, you do these monthly or every 2-week recovery tests that are hosted on enabled cloud infrastructure where you boot the environment, you screenshot it after you restore it, and then throw away those virtual machines. And that's great. But if there's a failure, I don't want to have to wait another 2 weeks or another month to get another restore test. So we took that to heart and we enhanced our recovery testing capabilities back in March to auto rerun if there's a failure related to the recovery process. So while doing recovery testing, If it fails for some reason, we will auto run that recovery test for you as soon as possible. And then if that recovery test fails as well, then we do give you a manual rerun option as well that you can trigger after you've done another backup, looked at your configuration, things of that nature. So that saves you the time and the headache of going in and removing the recovery plan and blowing away all of the recovery history and then adding that device back in order to trigger a new run. More work on our notification system happened here in the March timeframe as well. We created those rules for recovery with errors, server and workstation dedication components. Once again, just expanding this out based on that feedback that was coming in from our partners during all of these ongoing tests. So when you see a feature preview, you might say, oh, well, yeah, I'll look at that next month, or I'll look at it when it becomes GA. And by all means, if you're busy, do that. But if you would like to provide feedback and have that feedback taken into account while we're expanding and developing the functionality, definitely start up some of those previews and provide feedback what you like, but more importantly, what you dislike inside of the product. Maybe you're colorblind. You don't like the reds and the green variants, and that would be one of my biggest pieces of feedback personally. I have trouble telling the reds from the greens sometimes. So give me large data samples, give me hashes, give me visibility to make sure that I know what is really a problem and what is actually successful. In April, at this point, still thinking about efficiency, thinking about security, thinking about usability, how do we improve those recoverability aspects of it. We did go GA on the dedicated storage database for M365. We introduced thin and thick provisioning toggling for restore to ESXi environments. Once again, saving you disk space. If you want to over provision your ESXi recovery environment, you can now build these as thin provisioned VMs, or if you want to take advantage of, say, SQL optimized performance for an ESXi environment, then you might want to go thick provisioning, but giving you that toggle around the restore side of the house. We also introduced our service organization customer level back in April as well. And a lot of you folks may not even know about this or see this inside of your UI just yet if you haven't added a customer in a while. But if you go to your customer panel on the left-hand navigation and go to customers, add a new customer, you'll see below the reseller level, you'll see service organizations. Below service organizations, you can add in customers, and below that, you can add sites. This additional partner hierarchy allows you to more logically organize your customers based on geography, based on department, based on billing code. And then, of course, that's going to be even more useful as we get into things like PSA billing or PSA ticketing, because you've got that full partner hierarchy that can match up with your RMM tool or your PSA tool. Checking out, let's see, gonna look at my questions really quick here, just to make sure I've not passed up anything. So Jason, you asked if you get a copy of the script I'm talking about cleaning up, removing the shared mailboxes, the OneDrive components. Absolutely, I will point you guys to our new script repository. That is an actual enhancement that was rolled out this year as well. So I'll take you to that here momentarily so you can get it. Colton is asking, hey, is there any plan to introduce the timeout on booting devices in recovery testing? From my knowledge, it times out after only 2 minutes, which isn't a huge amount of time for some servers to boot. So Colton, I don't think that's actually accurate any longer. We've introduced an AI-based or machine learning-based engine into the recovery testing screenshots. At least the recovery testing screenshots that we're doing inside of our hosted recovery testing, or the recovery testing done inside of, say, a standby image infrastructure. If you're talking about the recovery testing being done inside of the recovery console, which is now technically considered a legacy application, I do have some settings you can use in order to expand some of the boot times and some of the delays for that as well. So if you can give me a little bit more detail on specifically where you're talking about on that recovery test timeout, I can show you what you're looking for, or I will get back to you with some validation on the proof that we've expanded that so it's a bit more intuitive and looking for certain milestones before it will end a recovery test. Okay. Let me see where I am here. So around that April timeframe, the spring was really productive here. We introduced the limited external preview for our Linux system state backup. This was a part deux. So we went back to the drawing board on Linux system state. For those of you that have been with us for years, you would know we tried a Linux system state approach back in, I don't know, let's say 2016, 2017. It was based around logical volume manager, but not a lot of adoption, not a lot of success on that one, very limited OS support. With this implementation, we are utilizing a third-party open sourced bootloader. It's going to capture the bootloader information for your Linux distribution so we can back up system state and disk configuration information. It's a third-party tool called Relax and Recover, REAR, R-E-A-R for short. And we utilize that now to capture this. So we started out with a limited external preview, collecting feedback on this, and we've been expanding that out each month now. I think we are in a full open preview now with GA just becoming imminent. We also started some work now in the same time frame on what we call secure connection. This is with a mutual TLS between the agent and the cloud. We're already doing, TLS 1.2, 1.3 type of connections, but with mutual TLS, we've got a much more secure connection between the client and the agent back to the, the agent and the cloud back to the agent. So we started this first with our Windows platforms and new devices, then we retrofitted it backwards to Windows devices with older platforms as they upgraded. And then later here, as we're talking 25.7, 25.8, somewhere around there, we've rolled out the Mac and the Linux equivalent for these. Right alongside a lot of other Linux and Mac enhancements too to improve that quality of life. And I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here because of, we're doing a mixture each month. This is not one development team. There are multiple development teams here, each with their own swim lane. So, the continuity team is only working on the recovery success rates and new platforms and things of that nature. The M365 team only working on the performance and the success and the efficiencies. The platform team, working on, the Windows side of the house, the storage side of the house, the new operating system components. So not a lot of crossover there, short of the UX teams that do span across multiple product dev teams. So let's see here. We got to May. Notification system continue to enhance here. I'm not going to talk more about that when I'm going to show it to you live in the UI here in just a moment. We built up some new default profiles, giving everybody that not only that 1 hour and 24 hour, but a default 4 hour for new customers, new tenants, new trial structures being created, just to show that level of efficiency. We mistakenly, I would say, went from this, high end and low end of the spectrum with a 1 hour and a 24 hour, and everybody just seemed to use the 24 or use the 1. They weren't creating their own 4s, 2s, or 6s. So started to create some more in here to show off the functionality of the product, give some more defaults. For some reason, somebody assumed that the 1 hour and the 24 hour are the best practices, and they didn't build anything else in between. Reliability. SharePoint, OneDrive restores. Obviously, you got to have good backups in place in order to get good restores. We start to see things inside of M365 that we can't do anything about. Files that are being locked down, quarantined, not accessible from a Microsoft perspective, things that are restricted or that we can't capture. We were throwing errors in some of those situations. We've learned from that now, so we only throw errors where they're informative or where there's something that can be actionable. If it's Microsoft quarantining a file, we'll throw the error once and then we won't report it, or we won't reiterate that one again. Continuity, restore reliability here, looking to make sure that individual customer errors, wait times. There's a note here. It says reducing the average restore time from 3.5 hours to 2 hours for various regions based on certain timeouts that were in place Just getting more intelligent on that one, triggers for those recovery environments. New agents, Linux system state enhancements, more secure connection functionalities, things like that through May and technically through June. SharePoint took a really, really big interest second half of this year. We introduced a SharePoint acceleration. There's new SharePoint permissions in place. There's auto retries, what we call our Delta queries. There is no VSS writer inside of M365. There is no full and incremental and differential bit or archive bit that you can rely on. So we had to build out our own tracking technology here so we could do our Delta changes and help reduce scanning when we see that this particular branch of the site or file repository has not had any changes, and then if it has had changes, how do we track those changes and get right to the meat of what has been modified and not have to iterate over things that have not changed in weeks or months or even years. So preview-based releases for a lot of these, bringing in small sets of customers first, expanding that out into public previews and so on. All along, introducing encryption enhancements here. We are actively developing toward a FIPS 140-3 readiness model or encryption algorithm model. That won't mean a whole lot of you that aren't, to a lot of those of you that aren't in, say, the US or at least in North America. You guys have your own encryption standards. Rest assured that we do use an AES 256-bit encryption algorithm, and then this FIPS 140 standard was set by the US government to dictate military-grade levels of encryption and which approved, certified, and tested encryption algorithms were utilized for that storage of data. So we've updated to a newer AES 256-bit encryption algorithm. It's a step toward our FIPS readiness, but we've not fully implemented the use of that algorithm just yet. There are certain fallbacks. There's certain other preconditions we've got to implement in some end of lives where we've dropped support for some legacy Linux clients, some legacy VMware infrastructures that don't support new encryption mechanisms. But just the move into these newer models and updates, we saw significant improvements in the encryption process for data. So we're using this, we're moving forward with it, and then we'll flip it on retroactively once we hit that certain critical mass and we can start to claim those compliance levels. Let's see. All the time, obviously nothing's standing still. Azure. Moving forward very, very quickly here, new virtual machine models. So we did introduce behind a feature flag initially, access to modern v6 virtual machine families inside of Azure. This was requested by one of our super elite customers, providing feedback in the console, getting into these previews. They had environments where they wanted to take advantage of standby image and one-time restores on recovery locations and VMs that were utilizing the virtual or the dedicated NVMe boot capabilities inside of Azure. Historically, we were restricting that and only allowing you to choose environments that were both dual compatible with BIOS, MBR, UEFI, GPT configurations. Now behind feature flag, and it may be actually out full GA now, I'll have to check here in a minute, but you can get access to those heftier, beefier recovery environments. And interestingly enough, the tests really prove this. If you choose the bare minimum requirements for doing recovery testing, recovery locations, one-time restores, standby images, then that first machine, could take a few hours in order to build. Now your deltas, just a few bytes, kilobytes, megabytes of data that you're restoring, won't necessarily take a long time to restore. But having things like NVMe or SSD-based boot volumes, faster disk I/O capabilities, more mountable disk volumes, faster base I/O rates, things of that nature in some of these higher performance, more costly VMs can also increase your performance. So, the difference between getting a really beefy recovery environment for that one-time restore and a low-end environment, it's a very minimal cost during that restore process, because you're going to cut your restore from a 4-hour restore down to a 45-minute restore in some cases. So there are definitely advantages to think about that one. The nice thing with Azure is you can, in a lot of cases, promote and demote these virtual machine instances that you're using for more resources on demand. Let's see, checking questions again. I think I'm still doing good here. 25.7, so July. Still, that focus on M365. Let's increase the performance around the Delta backups. We rolled it out just across a few domains to start. Customers were having problems that were not able to complete within a 24-hour or longer period for some reason, whereas the average runtime of these things is just a few minutes. So we saw things that were configuration, we saw throttling from Microsoft, we saw permissions issues, we saw customers that were just loading their SharePoint up with every type of piece of data they could have for their customers and using as almost a shared repository for their customers to access data, things like that. But we learned a lot. We saw on average about a 20x increase in performance. On the minimum, we took 1 day down to 7 hours and 42 minutes. At the max, we took a 50x increase, so 13 hours down to about 16 minutes from a backup process, with the ability to look at delta changes inside of these environments. Continued improvements around resiliency. If the backups were to fail due to performance issues or permissions issues or access issues, we would work on trying to continue to run through and protect the environment, at least get the files, even if for some reason there was a permission issue or a problem that we couldn't access, possibly permissions changed in the middle of a backup, for example. Also queuing, so that we're not pulling each of these queries as individual queries, but batching and queuing these backups and these calls for permissions and files, so that we can grab more data at one time and be more efficient overall. More Apex, user UX type of enhancements throughout the release. Obviously continuity, that boot detection. You see some things here. We fixed a boot issue where it was failing to boot with a win load error, or virtual machine has already been deleted, or we fixed a restore issue where if it had a really large backup register, millions and millions of files, it couldn't start. It was trying to load it all into memory versus caching, things like that. That while these weren't necessarily your environments, they could help you later when you go to do a restore if you had a similar configuration. Doing a quick time check here. I think we're doing actually pretty good. I got about 15 minutes here before the top of the hour. So we're going to wrap up the slide aspect of it here a little bit. I'm going to take you into some of the newer stuff. I mentioned MTLS, mutual TLS connections. So external preview now on that. You should see this in and available for your newer devices and configurations. The FIPS side of the house, we've end of life that VMware 6.5 now that I talked about. OpenSSL version upgraded here for faster environments. A few prerequisites still being worked toward here as we get closer to this release. Linux system state. The customer feedback was, hey, well, you're doing the restore, but it's a black hole. While that restore is running, I don't know what's going on. I'm on a Linux screen and I see nothing. So things like progress statuses and performance bars and additional metrics, prerequisites, support for older Linux versions. We've certified a lot of, or qualified a lot of different Linux versions now for Linux system state. We even converted the terminology now, not saying Linux system state anymore, but we're saying Linux bare metal recovery now, because we've got the data captured for the bare metal. We've got the file system backup. We've now created a boot ISO image you can use to boot into the environment. Look at Linux system state ultimately, hashtag forward-looking statements, as a precursor to maybe Linux virtual disaster recovery, Linux standby images, Linux one-time restores, maybe even a recovery location running on Linux. Or ideally, well, why wouldn't we utilize maybe restore to Proxmox or Nutanix or Zen environments, things of that nature. So lots of things that are being looked at there, which we'll talk about or tease about on the roadmap slides here in just a few moments. 25.8, that service organization that I talked about finally went full GA for customers, so you can build out and expand your tree structures. We rolled in honeypots in 25.7, full GA now in 25.8. Honeypots have already saved some customers. We see the bad actors trying to manipulate data packets, trying to work their way around through the code, figure out how they can get in to do some harm, or try to trigger a man-in-the-middle type of attack. So between MTLS, honeypots, our immutability here, we've actually saved customers from data loss, reverted them back from immutable storage, and notified them about the fact that they were under an attack by a bad actor, and then they were able to go off and look to see why their EDR or security tools didn't actually catch that intrusion. So we're finding it in some cases before the actual security tools, which is really kind of interesting, and it further supports my argument that backup and recovery tools don't need integrated AV. They need understanding of change and anomalies, things that are outside of the norm, so that we can flag or trigger and let you know that yes, something has changed, protect the secure the already protected environment from further change, so that you can use that in the event of loss. Executive summary reports, ESRs. I'm going to show this to you guys in the UI now. This is fully available to you. Should have had pop-ups in the GUI for it. Obviously, continued focus on stability, recovery, things like that. So each of these releases, you notice we've done something to improve performance, scale, recoverability, mixed configurations. I think that was one of the big things here, trying to harden the ESXi environment. Now, you might ask, why are we trying to harden the ESXi environment? Interestingly enough, we are actively building out disaster recovery as a service. Once again, hashtag forward-looking statements. So DRAS will be our next installment of in the continuity feature set for Cove. This would be not just restoring into a hypervisor at your colo or at your data center or your customer's location. This would be restoring into either an on-demand restore or a standby image sitting in an enable managed cloud infrastructure. So failover to the vendor cloud, if you will. We're looking to get into recruitment for customer previews here this quarter with some limited customer previews probably in December. But I'll give you some more information on that here momentarily. Right now, I'm seeing it in internal preview, so I'm being able to play with it myself, break it a little bit. I've been able to show it off with some partners. I'll show you guys here very, very shortly. 25.9, last one I'm going to touch here slide-wise, I believe. Executive summary reports now in global preview. M365 in-place archive is in limited tech preview right now. We're getting ready to start recruiting for a open customer preview here. This is our ability to back up the in-place of the online archive, not just the actual live user mailbox. This has been a deficiency or a limitation of Cove since GA due to Microsoft not having published APIs for the in-place archive. That changed early this year. I want to say the February-March timeframe. They rolled out a set of new graph APIs that we've been actively taking advantage of. Smart Restore into Azure virtual machines, the ability to do a one-time restore into Azure, and instead of creating a new VM, actually target the existing VM in Azure and just update or overwrite or append to that particular VM. So Smart Restore, retaining settings that are already there, but putting the data either forward or backward to the desired point in time. Saves you having to move things around after the fact. Restore to VHD. And you might say, well, hey, I've already restored to VHD before, right? Well, no, we used to allow you to do a restore to VHD/VHDX, which meant basically it built the right VHD configuration based on the source machine. UEFI, GPT, size of volumes, operating system version, things of that nature. But in an environment where you need to support multiple hypervisors that may not be Hyper-V, you might want to import into XCPNG or you might need a native AHV format or other structures to go into a different hypervisor. So now we'll give you a toggle, just like we can then provision toggle, a toggle to choose, do I build it as a VHD or a VHDX, which is going to reduce the number of steps to import that into an alternate hypervisor, or maybe even to upload it into AWS if you wanted to import a VHD file into one of their AMIs. So with that, let's flip out of here just a second. I promised a couple things to the audience. need to be right here. So inside my Cove dashboard, the key thing to know here, or to be aware of, is this little beaker in the upper right corner. The beaker here gives you access to your feature lab. The feature lab is going to show you things that are currently in preview state, the Exchange in-place archive. So preview banner here, comments to improve the features, learn more links so that you can get access to the documentation. In some of these cases, you're going to see links in here to actually sign up or to turn the features on. The enhanced retention policy UI, the ability here to turn on or turn off this new Apex UI enhancement. If you don't like it or it's causing you problems, you can turn off the UX enhancements we've made for a short time at least, until we can take your feedback into consideration or improve maybe a gotcha that was blocking your access. Critical configuration changes now in preview. So the ability to send out not just those failure alerts, but also the change alerts or modification or deletion alerts for your various assets inside the dashboard. Executive summary reports. In preview state, we've just expanded this now to be able to email out the executive summary reports. Last month we were generating them. Now we're generating them and emailing them out to you. You can also manually generate them and open the PDFs that are there. And then of course, Linux bare metal recovery in preview now with those custom selection points in the actual Linux UI. Once again, all of these available to you. How do you get access? If you see something in here or you hear about something in release notes, how do you get access to that feature? Well, let me have you hit this little question mark in the upper right corner here, and we're going to hit release notes. This panel was updated a bit earlier this year to give a lot more live interactive information. So we're going to go into the release notes section there. And what you can see, already pre-filtered on Cove, our 25.9 release, that's our September release. We'll be publishing October here within the next day or two. But as you come in here, what you're going to notice, my release video for the given release, what's new inside of Cove, any end of lives, any items that are in external previews or core functionality. If there is, let's see, reporting, executive summary reports, preview and a demo on that feature. If there is an option to sign up for a preview or get into something that they're recruiting for, you're going to see those options here as well. Let me try, I think this one right here. So 25.7, we start talking about early access to Google Workspace protection. So we are actively building out Google Workspace as well. And we are signing people up for this particular preview here. The linked survey in our release notes. It's going to take you here, giving some information about how we're going to be doing this, any of the terms and conditions and legalese, what to protect, what not to protect. You can accept this, and that'll get you signed up or enrolled into that particular feature preview. Most of our product managers are utilizing this type of approach to get you into feature previews and enhancements as they're coming available, at least at that very first stage. And then we will expand it into the product where you can turn it on if you want to be maybe not an early adopter or bleeding edge. You can take advantage of it before it gets GA. So let me show one more enhancement or one more item here as well. And that's going to be our roadmap page. So if you come to enable.com and on the main page here, you've got products. At the bottom of the products pop out here, you have product roadmaps. Product roadmaps are updated and managed by the product management team. So you can see that there are roadmaps here for each of the different pillars of technology inside of Enable. We're going to go to Cove here, a quick second half roundup from Stefan Voss, our VP of Product Management. And you can see this was updated here as of October 6th. So these are getting every 2 to 3 week updates by the product management team. And you can see items that we have released, some of these that I've talked about here today, giving you a little bit of high level for those, what has been released, what is in preview. Some Apex for the historical charts, Linux BMR, Exchange Online archiving, the new user interface for retention policies, executive summary reports, accelerated SQL scanning. That's our backup accelerator for Microsoft SQL. They even talk about that one, but speeding up your large database runs. In development, things that we're actively working on right now, there's notifications of critical configuration changes tied to our cyber resiliency, inter-ID security groups based selection for backup of M365, Cove disaster recovery as a service. Things that are listed as in development typically going to have a probably a 1 to 3 month delivery time frame on this one with various phased approaches. If it's in a research stage, it's probably more in that 3 to 6 month time frame. Anything that's more than 6 months out, probably not going to show up inside of this list here. M365 export to PST, inter-ID for basic sign-on, ARM-based support, so porting out our backup agents to run natively on the Apple ARM or M-based hardware. And then, of course, in research, custom user roles, granular security and granular functionality for logging in, customizable retention for M365, that user offboarding automation for M365 that I talked about that we're planning on implementing. I do still owe somebody a script inside of this today. Looks like Jason, you may have dropped off, so I will get that over to you via email. PSA integrations for ticketing, I talked a little bit about the work we're going toward that. And then, of course, support for alternate hypervisors. Also talked about how do we build structures that can support third-party hypervisors, but we are looking at how do we build native disk formats as well that'll support your Proxmoxes, your Acropolises, your XCPNGs, and so on. So Mark had a question here, and I don't remember exactly which feature set it might have been tied to, but it was a question about curious why one time. So why doing one-time restore? So maybe it's some of the enhancements or the restore to existing in a one-time restore. So one-time restore is a purely reactive where you're picking the session you want to restore and we build the VM from scratch. The enhancement we made there was to allow you to so you have an Azure system you're already backing up and running and protecting, but you just want to revert it back to an earlier point in time, and you're not going to use Azure snapshots to do that. So then you could do a one-time restore and just revert the existing Azure virtual machine to prior to the configuration change or prior to the corruption or the ransomware. It means we don't have to build a second one and then you have to swap things around. Just a much more efficient approach for it, keeping all of your IP settings and other configurations if you like. The standby image is a continuous restore process. So you build it and it builds the virtual machine. It keeps updating it ongoing. So you're never actually booting it or running it in a live environment unless you're doing a full failover. So for that reason, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do continuous restore into an existing VM. You know, if we had to maybe take a continuous restore and then spin it up and run it into production, we could flip it into continuous restore mode behind the scenes and then do file and folder updates and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, it made sense for one-time restore. Mark's asking, hey, are there any options or plans to back up Azure files? So like the Azure file shares, the SMB shares that they've got out there, you could try backing them up today using the SMB or the network shares connector inside of the workstation or server backup. I'd recommend having an actual machine running inside of Azure and use that with the server and UNC credentials in order to connect to it, in order to back it up that way. Possibly, you'll probably see something like inter-ID support or other items first before we get to that one. I'm not ruling it out. It's just it's not on any short-term roadmaps that I'm aware of right now. Let's see. So Sean's saying, hey, I haven't tried out that executive summary report yet, but are they white labeled? So right now, the executive summary reports are fairly generically labeled. But there are plans to put custom branding into it so you can put your own brand, your own logos. Let me hit a couple of these features now. We are already into overtime, but since I've got some good questions here, let's take another 5 to 10 minutes here if you guys can hang around, and I'll show off a little bit of this inside a product. So the new home for the executive summary reports, the left-hand navigation right over here. My UI might be slightly updated from what you guys are seeing based on the October release. There's still a couple things that they are battening down before everything goes out GA. But inside of here, executive summary reports, we're going to go in and pick a service organization. So my top reseller level, service organization, both external and internal service orgs. I'll grab the external service org. And now we can see all my end customers. I've got individual end customers here for Africa Industries, Asia Pacific Tech with their executive summary reports for September. I want to go back and look at the executive summary reports for August. Those have all been generated individually. The new enhancement here is the ability to add a internal or external recipient and turn on the schedule. This is going to send out on the 5th of each month this executive, generate and send out this executive summary report if you've got it toggled on with a set of users here. Why the 5th of the month and why only the 5th of the month? Well, it gives you a few days at the beginning of the month to come in here and take a look at these executive summary reports to make sure it's something you want to send to your customer, or maybe you want to turn this one off and go figure out what happened and the problem for it and resolve those issues, and then let that customer know, hey, you had some problems, but you've worked around that one. So we don't want to sabotage you with an ESR going out that could make you look bad, or that could cause a lot of questions. So we give you a little bit of time there. We might expand that in order to change the timing or custom timing, things of that nature. But right now, 5th of each month to the recipients identified here. If you want to click on one of these links, let's go with German Industries, for example. We'll see how this report looks. So you've got your end customer name in here, the tenant ID, the month. This is the August report. You can see a lot of the badges that are identified here as far as private or system generated keys, two-factor authentication, SOC 2 compliance, long-term retention, data isolation, segmentation, offsite cloud, immutable copies. These are badges. The badges are meant there to show your customers that, yes, you have these feature sets that are there, that fortified copy aspect of it, the mutability, things they're going to ask you about. We've added them into the report. Yes, they take up a good portion of the page, but it means one less thing you have to go in and say, yes, we have that. Yes, it's included in the product. Information here, backup success rate, 72%, moderate data backup requires some attention. We're doing the calculations here. We give you documentation on this, explaining how we do each of these calculations, what each of these features mean. It's not a key in the report, but it is something that's available to you so that you can understand them, and you can give your customers a reference link to understand it in more detail as well. If you have M365 in your tenant as well, that'll include in the executive summary report the attempts that it's going to try to make per day, use storage, billable user counts, things of that nature, core retention. If you don't have M365 in your tenant, then we now opt out of this particular subset as opposed to leaving it blank. You can generate those back for up to 6 months. It is a one-time generation or a restore. One-time generation. Once you've generated, it remains here. So it doesn't go back and regenerate. It's not like I can go back and run backups for September again, right? So that report is there, locked in, set in stone. Okay. Let's get to not scheduled report notifications. The notification engine over here on the left. I want to come in and add a new notification. One of the things you're going to notice here, the ability to pick my service organization that I want to do my alerting for. My trigger, this is that new critical configuration change enhancement to notifications. So I want to do this. I can now say I want to, on deletion, this is the first core action that's introduced. Modify will show up here as well. Deletion of a device, a profile, a retention policy, a customer, or a user, send out an email to select internal recipients. This could be going to a user, to an email that's being parsed by your PSA as well. Look for a future PSA integration component over here on the left-hand navigation, which will allow us to link the notification engine here to the PSA, so we can talk directly via API to those guys. Ooh, a question came through. Colton, any plans to allow backup of Microsoft Flows or Power Automate? It's an interesting one. There's lots of open requests there. I'd have to actually defer that one back to Yulia. I don't know at the moment. There's probably some API components to grab it, but I haven't done that research on it. I'm looking actively at like things like Enter ID right now, and how do you get the OneNote data, the OneNote notebooks, and so on. There's just a lot of edge case APIs to get a little bit of stuff, but not everything. I'll pass it along, Colton. It's an interesting request. I'd be curious how often you see that. Is that something that's a per customer or per tenant based type of thing, or is this more for you at the MSP level that you'd want to have it protecting at like a global tenant perspective? Is it something you'd see that you would offer out on a per customer basis, or is it more for your use? I guess that's my question. Okay. Let's see, downloads. My download section over here. When I go to downloads, this is where you're going to find things like bare metal recovery, the new Linux ISO. So now, right alongside Windows executables and ISO images, you can download the Linux ISO, which is going to allow you to boot into an environment and start to trigger those bare metal restores for your Linux servers. Could be a physical box, it could be a virtual box. You would just mount this ISO inside of your hypervisor and work that way. Give us feedback though on any of these items. If you want to participate in them, you've got something you like or don't like, come into the feature lab here, hit share feedback, and it's going to present you with a form where you can let us know what you liked about it, how you would rate it, and any particular comments, and our PM team or UX team will reach out and follow up with you on that, okay? So let's see, a lot of internal flows, a lot of customers have flows. Okay. You know what? I'll take a look at it, Colton. I don't know if it's something that's feasible or not, but I can do some preliminary research on it, see if it is something there's an API or graph API for. But I'll pass it over to Yulia on the PM team as well to see if maybe it's something that she's interested in adding into the roadmap, or she's an opportunity for it. So guys, with that, I think I've got just one. I've got two final slides for you. So the one that I want here, let's see, swap. Bear with me a second here. The one I want to get is a poll. So I'm curious what you guys thought of today's session. So just a quick poll here, so that I can know whether this is good content. Is this something we should do more frequently? I know we do them occasionally at various roadshows and regional events. What I found for the most part is that you might know we're going down one direction or another direction, but you don't always realize what we've already built or the various steps we've gotten into it, or you're not aware of the previews. So we're trying to make that much more in your face, with videos, with pop-ups inside of the UI, with active recruitment. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. We'll give it another moment. Any other feedback that you want to drop into the question section as well around pop-ups in the UI? I know that pop-ups can be distracting. We use Pendo as the underlying engine for a lot of those quizzes and notifications of boot camps and things like that. How do you find that? Is it too distracting to give you a pop-up that you can dismiss for a new feature or a new function? Or do you welcome seeing, hey, we've updated this, we've moved this, this has changed? Does that work for you? Does it annoy you? I know that I still am not using the new Outlook, and I'm not interested in going through it, no matter how many times Microsoft pops up a little window for me. I'm busy, I got stuff to do. I don't have time to beta test their new UI for them. And is that the same scenario for you guys, or is it valuable to have that inside of product and visible to you? So any feedback or questions, comments around that one that you want to drop into the question section, I would love to hear it. I'll pass it on to the PM team as well. If you've got a suggestion that would be a better improvement versus what we're doing today, would love to hear that as well, okay? So guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna wrap up and go ahead and close this poll out here. I do want to thank you for your time and attention. I've got another slide that just says goodbye or thank you so much, but it's on the screen now, so I'm not going to worry about trying to move it over from the 4K over to the 1080. I just want to thank you for your time and attention. Look forward to getting on another boot camp with you guys. If you've got feedback or things you'd like to see, if you'd like a boot camp on any of these particular features that are in preview, that's great feedback to drop into the various forums as well. And either the PM team or myself can put together that content for you. If there were questions that I missed, I'll go through that. I'll go through that feedback. I'll drop some emails out to the folks that are asking for some various items. If you'd like to schedule some time with me, drop me a quick email, eric.harless@n-able.com. Be more than happy to spend some time with you in your time zone to go through and talk about features, functions, roadmaps, or the whatnot. Okay, guys, thanks so much. Have a great day. I appreciate you letting me go over a few minutes. See ya.